Okie dokie. So, throw your name on here. This is currently second hour. Hey, so 111, these are compound inequalities. So just like we were talking about compound words in our quick write just now, a compound inequality is a set of two inequalities that are joined together by the word or the word and. So if we say or, that means I am one or the other thing. If we say and, that means I am both at the same time. So the key is that or means you're one or the other. Or inequalities have to be solved separately. So right here, our first one, we can be greater than negative 13 or less than or equal to negative 53. We cannot be both of those things at the same time, okay? So that's like me saying, let me give you an example with positive numbers. I am older than 18 and younger than 11 at the same time. I cannot be both of those things at the same time. So with or inequalities, essentially what we're doing is we're solving two inequalities on the same problem, graphing them on the same graph, but they get solved completely separately. So let's get started with these. We've got negative 8x plus 3 is greater than negative 13. So I'm going to solve this like a normal equation, because normal inequalities get solved like normal equations. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'll get negative 8x is greater than negative 13 minus 3, which is negative 16. And then to get x by itself, I will need to divide by negative 8. What happens when I divide by a negative? I flip my sign. So if I multiply or divide by a negative, I must flip my sign. If you need to write a little note to yourself so you remember that you did that. So now instead of greater than, it's going to be less than. So x is less than. Negative 16 divided by negative 8 is 2. So x is less than 2. I'm going to do an open circle at 2 and an arrow going to the left here. Okay. My next one I've got negative 8x plus 3 is less than or equal to negative 53. So you guys will notice on your notes and your assignments, the inequalities we give you are the same on the left side. They're just greater than and less than a different number. On the activity we're going to do, they're going to be different. You still do them the same way. So this one, we will subtract 3 from both sides. We'll get negative 8x is less than or equal to negative 53 minus 3 is negative 56. And I divide both sides by negative 8. I get x. Once again, because I divided by a negative, I'm going to flip my sign. So now it's going to be greater than or equal to. And then negative 56 divided by negative 8 is positive 7. So I get x is greater than or equal to positive 7. So I'll do a closed-in circle at 7 with an arrow going to the right. Okay, and then so we just graph those separately. You will notice on an or one, your graphs are going to go out. So I can be over here, or I can be over here. I cannot be in both of these places at the same time. So that's why it's or and not and. On your and ones, your graphs will connect. Hey, let's move on to our next one. Our next one's same concept, different numbers. And we don't have to, we never divide by a negative in this one. So I've got 2x plus 3 is less than or equal to negative 5. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'll get 2x is less than or equal to Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. And then I'll divide by 2 on both sides. I'll get x is less than or equal to negative 8 divided by 2. Did I divide by a negative there? What did I divide by? 2. So even though I'm going to get a negative answer, I did not divide by a negative. So negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So we can graph that one. Close circle at negative 4. Arrow to the left. And then for our other one, we've got 2x plus 3 is greater than 1. So we'll still subtract 3, divide by 2. Subtract 3. 2x is greater than 1 minus 3, which is negative 2. And I divide both sides by 2. X is greater than negative 2 divided by 2, which is negative 1. So I got an open circle at negative 1. I'm greater than that, so I'm going this direction. Hey, any questions on either of those? Okay, both of those are just like, hey, you're doing 2 problems instead of 1 problem. They get graphed on the same number line. Okay, flip this over. These are the ones where they get squished together a little bit more. So, and means that both inequalities are true at the same time. So a good example of and, what I could say, all of you guys are greater than 13 years old and less than 18 years old. So you can be both greater than 13 and less than 18 at the same time, if you're 14 or 15 or 16 or 17. So with and inequalities, they can be solved together. So we went ahead and wrote them out separately. So if I tell you that 3x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 13, and 3x plus 4 is less than or equal to 25, that means I'm between 13 and 25. So I took this inequality, I kind of flipped it around to put it there, and I wrote them together. We are going to be able to solve these together like a 3-sided equation. Well, it's actually an inequality. But you solve it with 3 sides instead of with 2 sides. So everything that we do in the middle to get x by itself, we're going to do on the left side and we're going to do on the right side. So solve it like a 3-sided equation. And that just makes it easier because then you don't have to solve them separately. So we've got 3x plus 4. We are going to subtract 4 in the middle, which means I need to subtract 4 here and here. 13 minus 4 is 9. That is less than or equal to 3x. And that is less than or equal to 21. 25 minus 4 is 21. Okay. Then from there, to get x by itself, we're going to divide off that 3. So divide by 3. Anything we do in the middle, we're going to do in the left and the right. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. That is less than or equal to, these 3's cancel, so I've just got x. That is less than or equal to 7. Okay, when we graph these ones, we're going to put a closed circle at 3, because less than or equal to means closed circle. We're going to call it a closed circle at 7, because or equal to means closed circle. Then, this is a little confusing. 3 is smaller than x is smaller than 7. So, all the numbers that 3 is smaller than and 7 is bigger than are everything in between. So, you just connect these. Sometimes when we see that less than with the 3, we think that means we need to go that way from the 3. But since the x is on this side, x is actually bigger than 3 and x is smaller than 7. Just remember on the and ones, if you solve them connected, you graph them connected. This is a good thing to remember. Okay. Any questions before our very last example? Okay. So our very last one, we've got negative 4x minus 3 is less than 13. And negative 4x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 1. So that means negative 4x minus 3 is between 1 and 13, basically. So we're going to solve this like a three-sided equation. Anything I do in the middle, I'll do the left and the right. So I'm going to add 3 everywhere. 13 plus 3 is 16. That is greater than negative 4x. That is greater than or equal to 1 plus 3, which is 4. Okay, from there, I'll divide negative 4 from both sides. And by both, I mean all 3. What happens when I divide a negative? I need to flip my signs. So in this one, I flip all of these signs. This becomes a less than or equal to, and that one becomes less than, that one becomes less than or equal to. So now negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. These cancel, so I just have x in the middle. And 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1. So that means my final answers are between negative 4 and negative 1. I do a closed circle at negative 1, open circle at negative 4, and then I connect those. Hey, any questions right now? Okay, if you want these glued so that they don't stick out the top of your notebook, here's what you need to do. You need to flip it over. You don't want them to be upside down. You gotta flip it over. Just fold down and put glue on this. And then just lay that back up. It's the easiest way to do it. Okay, so get your nuts glued in, and we'll get started on our next 2 things. Bye, video.